2, 1, and go.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Truth Be Told. This is Dr. Walter Aka. As you can see, I don't have my co-host, Dr. Dumper, with me, but I know, right? I know, but a good friend of mine, the guy that was on the podcast last week, Dr. Horton, decided, hey, you know what? Let me just jump on with you and just kind of help you out, because he figured, hey, he doesn't want me to like flounder and sink and destroy this whole podcast. You know what I mean? So he was gracious enough to basically jump on. We have an incredible guest, Dr. Tamaara Morris. She's been on 2 episodes, I want to say, right? Have you been on 2 or 3 episodes?
I think so. I think 2.
She's a vet. She's a vet, basically, when it comes to this
Yes.
podcast. But she's gone through some transitions in the past, 2 years, we'll say?
Yes.
I mean, her and I, we've been talking for a while, but I was just like, hey, can you come on the podcast and just kind of give our listeners basically what's been happening, your history and everything that's been going on? Because to me, listening to her, this is very not only inspirational, this is more of a do not quit attitude. And as dentists, we're very linear, meaning that we decide one direction, we stick to it. She decided to pivot a few times. And we're very type A individuals as dentists. So we're not good at pivot, So some people go, okay, I give up. She says, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to just pivot and change and make, move directions so that I can get to the final goal, which for her, she'll explain to you, it's a big dream. It's a big goal, So Dr. Morris, thank you so much for taking the time. I know with all the kids and everything, trust me, I know, nap time is law here, but thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast. So I guess we should just start off by saying, give us your history, basically from dental school forward, right?
All right.
And then basically tell us exactly what happened along the way. And then we'll ask questions as we get through.
Okay. So I went to University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, go Blue. We beat Ohio State, if you didn't know.
The Ohio State.
The Ohio State. That's right.
Okay. But so finished there, and I took a year right after graduation, and I did a few things. I worked as a dental assistant for, I call him my grandfather mentor, Harvey Colbert. And I worked alongside Dr. Ronald Evans, who's still my mentor to this day and helped me get into dental school. So I worked alongside them. And just from the beginning, like Dr. Colbert just had this chair side, like mannerisms, like he would do push-ups for his patients. He was jovial. Like all the ladies used to like get lipsticked up for him. Like it was just like so interactive, and he was having so much fun. It just showed like a very fun side of dentistry, being a practice owner. And I went to dental school, University of Detroit Mercy School of Dentistry, and I came out in 2006. And when I came out, I just wanted to pretty much go to work. I had the National Health Service scholarship. And so I wanted to make sure that I was able to give back to individuals I was in the same position. So we had Medicaid. That's how I met the first dentist that I went to, who inspired me to be a dentist in the first place. So I wanted to give back. So I did that for 5 years, but it's very constricting at the same time because your patients really can't afford crowns. So I didn't do a lot of crowns. I did some, definitely couldn't afford bridges. They could afford perio, like, preventative care, deep cleanings. And there was a lot of oral surgery. And so I was just naturally drawn with that, even working with Dr. Colbert. So now that I think about it, he didn't refer out very much either, but I digress. So went ahead, finished dental school, moved to Chicago, did the 5 years there. And I came to a point where I knew that I wanted to do something else. It was time. I enjoyed my patient. I enjoyed my time at the Community Health Center, Southside Chicago. It was great, but I knew I wanted to expand. And so I kind of always, like, my personality is kind of like the girl in Coming to America, when they go to the dance club, and she's like, and I want to be a rap singer, and then, be in my rap videos, and then produce my own videos, and then be an actress. And like, that's like me, like in dentistry. Okay. So I was like, oh, I want to do lumineers, and I want to do Invisalign and I want to do dental implants. And at the time, she's actually a prosthodontist I was talking to, and she said, you need to pick one, specialize. And so kind of back then, like 2006, like that whole era of dentists that came out probably around 2001, that was what it was about at Michigan. So it was like everybody was specializing. And then I got that guidance when I knew I wanted to do a little bit of everything. So I picked Perio because I was exposed to Perio. I love surgery. So I was already naturally inclined for that. And then I have a thing. It's like, if I'm going to do implants, I'm going to be a periodontist. Like, I just can't just go somewhere and just learn how to do it because I know there's going to be a whole bunch of gaps in between. So I'd like have to be a specialist at it or something. It's this thing. It's a very expensive thing. Anyway, I digress. So I go to a CE course at Detroit Mercy. I meet the clinical director. I express my passion for what I want to do, that I want to come back, that I'm totally like motivated to move back and go back to residency. And he pretty much like set me up for my interview the following week and I got accepted. And so that's how that worked out. Quit my job. I did my perio specialty at Detroit Mercy. And so by that time, it was 2011. And so I finished residency in 14. And my favorite classes were the ones that we were in combination with the AEGD program, because those were the cases that we got to see like the full scope. And we would sit down and we would have case presentations, case defense with the AEGD residents as well. And so I was constantly being exposed to the restorative side of things, which actually made me really excited as well. So I sit down with one of my girlfriends. She's an orthodontist. She has 2 amazing practices in Michigan. And she's like, you need to start your own practice. And I said, So no, because at the time I was pregnant with my daughter. You're about to have a baby. You need to get down to Houston, start your practice, work on the side. That way you will have a home, a dental home, and you'll work in other places until you can afford to. It was a great plan, right? And I was like, okay, cool, I'll do that. And so I did some demographic search in Houston, getting closer to the time where it's time to graduate. And I had to choose the choices were between Cypress and Missouri City. My brother lived in Cypress, and I kind of like went on the globe and said Queens. And so I built my practice in Cypress. I found a location. At that time, I didn't know any general dentists down here. I had came down for like a new dentist workshop. I think there were a few things. I had met with a few periodontists for job interviews. One interview, it was like, I flew all the way from Detroit. And so we get into the interview and like 5 minutes in, she's like, okay, so what are your plans? And I was like, well, I'm building a practice in Cypress. And at the time, her practice is in like the 3rd ward, which is like 25 to 30 miles away from where my practice was being built. And she says, oh, okay, that's good. Thank you. Nice to meet you. I'm like, so what happened? She was like, oh, you're building your own practice. And so that's not going to fit with what I'm trying to do. But I was like, but you're looking for someone part-time and I'm going to be inside. Nope. So I already knew like coming in like, oh goodness, I either need to build it myself. I hadn't really been exposed to the corporations and all that. So what happened after that? I ended up getting a job with Affordable Dentures and I started building my practice. So I got the funding for that. I brought on a consulting firm. And, because I didn't know what to do, I didn't have any connections. I didn't know anybody down here. And so the consulting firm was supposed to be doing the marketing. We're supposed to come in, set up systems in the practice, help with the construction process to make sure that everything was being done timely so we can stay on time for opening. I mean, it sounded great. It cost $45,000 taken out of my $500,000 business loan. And the practice basically kind of ran out of money. So the practice was complete, I guess. I didn't have a front sign. I had to take out an additional loan because I didn't have x-ray equipment. And these are all the things that I thought my so-called consultants were supposed to be helping with, right? So it just started off really rough, like financially, right? Because this was $45,000 that instead of could have went towards marketing, and then the construction cost. I was very, very concerned about the aesthetics of the office. Like I wanted people to see and feel and, be great, but I really didn't think about how to get people into the office. So when it came to like my, the business side, I knew that, my thing was I'll get down there, I'll meet a few dentists. I really just need 5 to refer to me, and I can do their implants, and I'll scan the implants, and they'll seat the crowns, and everything will be merry and jolly, and I'm cool. So I think that they'll think that I'm pretty cool and funny, and they'll send me their patients. So I get down here and I open the practice, and it has just a very incredibly slow start. By the time I opened, close to that time, I had started working with corporate a few days a week. So that was helping financially, but all of that money was going back into the practice because it was like I was constantly trying to like stay above water. And so the first 3 years or so, I just sat back and I was like, wow, this is really hell. Like, I'm not enjoying this. I felt extremely isolated because going into it, I asked my friend to be my partner, but she just thought like we're just kind of too different, and didn't want to mix that partnership with the friendship. And I got it. I completely understood. And so I was on it on my own. And I tried to survive as long as I could, but it was just so stressful, like that business side. I didn't have the business acumen to get investors and to create the spreadsheets and show the information. And it was just like a hole. In the meantime, I had gotten some more training. I went ahead and got my Invisalign certification like in 2018. I went ahead and I got that in 17. In 18, I became LANAP, which is like a laser to treat periodontal disease. I got certified to do that. And I financed a cone beam for the office. And so I went from doing like 10 implants a year to doing like 4 or 5 a month, which is really good for my little practice. And it was because I had the confidence when I explained treatment to patients. They were receptive, like they feel your confidence, they feel your energy. I had also invested in some sales training, or like, kind of consulting, they want to call it, but really it's sales training. I invested in that as well, just kind of learning people's personalities and being a mirror of their personality on how I deliver, the information about the treatment that they need and set them up for success. So I just really honed in on those things. But by that time, when I had all my armamentarium, I was just too much in the hole. So slowly but surely, and I didn't know I wasn't supposed to do it, having a periodontal practice, but it was brought to my attention like 4 days ago. I wasn't. But if I got a patient in that I did not receive from a referring doctor, they needed an implant, they wanted to stay with me to get the final restoration, I would do it to completion. Okay. And I was like, dang, I like that part. I worked alongside a prosthodontist. She came into the office and we did a lot of cases together. We did some all-on-4 cases. We did some implant retained dentures together. We did some cosmetic cases together, and they were pretty successful. And I just really was intrigued by that part. And then I also noticed like that's the part where you had more social proof when it came to obtaining, direct clients, right? So when they see everything above the gum line and that's looking beautiful, that's what people can relate to, and I just, everywhere I would go, I'm a periodontist. What's that? Okay, I started again. Okay, a periodontist is just like, all right. So what happened after that? I started liking that part more and more. I started getting more intrigued. I have like a mastermind group with 3 other, very successful general dentists who have booming practices or multiple practices. And when I say general dentists, these ladies aren't general dentists. To me, they are much more. And so maybe in 2001 or 1999, the general dentist, maybe stuck to the path of just doing restorative. But now I'm seeing general dentists, quote, doing amazing, beautiful, full reconstruction cases, going and getting trained at Kois and Pankey and Spear, and really investing in full treatment planning when it comes to patients. And so it's not just, oh, I'm just a GP. I'm like, no. And I tell a lot of general practitioners that when they say that, I was like, you are really a full service cosmetic restorative dentist. And if you place implants and enough of them, I don't give them that plight, but you are a full restorative doctor. You're not just a GP, so I'm seeing general practitioners doing ridge splits and sinus lifts. And the stuff doesn't look half bad. I'm like, I can't even, because they took the time, they went and took the PICO's course and they spent that money, or they went over to Europe and learned directly from where the whole concept even began. And they're doing these things in their practice and they're very successful, and they're not referring to me.
Okay.
Right. And I just think that after that time of spending time with those ladies, going to conferences outside of Perio conferences, meeting other doctors, it just broadened my horizon. So, because I live in the great state of Texas, on my license, it says dentist. It doesn't say general dentist, periodontist, doesn't say anything, it says dentist. And so I decided to pivot and dedicate my hands to, doing all restorative and not giving myself limitations. And my why behind me even becoming a periodontist and going into public health and doing all those things in my path is that I wanted to touch as many mouths and people as possible. And so what I was recognizing about my field was I was just getting a little, trickle of the massive patients and the massive doctors that I could really have contact with to teach and get people healthy, And so if I'm that main entryway to that funnel of care and I can see as many people as possible, yes, I'm going to have a percentage of people that don't need SRPs, but I'm also going to catch people in those earlier phases of gum disease and save them from having to get all the way to the point. Okay. And so then also.
No, I'm sorry. So you said you pivot. I want to kind of let you finish your story so that we can start asking questions, but you said you pivot. What does that look like? What was that pivot?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, because I'll go off on a tangent.
No.
Okay, so I closed my practice. So when the whole COVID shutdown happened, oh man, I was so happy and relieved. I'm like, sheesh, this is great.
Okay.
Woo, I get a break. I get a break. Okay. And it gave me a time to sit outside in my backyard and just think about what makes me overall fulfilled. Am I being fulfilled? Am I really being fulfilled by being put in this, I felt like I was in a box or cornered in,
so like a Perio box.
Am I, nobody puts baby in a corner. I want to be out. I want to see as many people, touch as many people, do everything I can. And is this practice really doing this for me? And by then the financial debt and the creditors and all this other stuff, it just got too overwhelming. Lights were getting cut off in the middle of the treatment. What? Did I pay the bill? Oh my God, no, I didn't pay the bill. Let me try to pay the bill. They're not on an automatic little dial. So somebody has to come up, and it was just becoming too much, and doors getting locked because I had to pay my employees and never able to pay myself. And how am I supposed to buy my dream house one day? So it's just I was losing sight of all my other goals and aspirations outside of dentistry. We're trying to keep this thing afloat, trying to keep it going. And it's not even fulfilling to me. I'm feeling like I'm on an island, and I love my staff. Some of them are still with me. I can call. I needed help the other day. I called my previous office manager, can you come help me for 2 hours, do this implant? Because the assistant did a no-show. She got dressed, got her baby dressed, and came up there and helped me out. These were people that were just lifelong dedicated, But yeah, I had to close the doors. And so I was kind of like a little dental nomad since then. And I was working out of one periodontist office, and that was hell. And then I went and I worked out of, I said, screw this, we're going to office space. And then I started using those same contacts I had through the Houston Minority Dental Society to start going into offices and seeing their perio patients and seeing if that's what I wanted to do, if I just wanted to take this show on the road in between this transition. What am I trying to do? And I hated it. I still don't like that. So I only, I see very VIP clients just for that. But because it's just a whole other level of like drama and stuff. And I just don't like it. So I said, all right, I'm going to get a job. So I got a job at a general office. It was a multi-location office. And I had my own little office. And that was the time that I can really like see if I could pull this whole me being a general practitioner off, because that means I can't refer out all my root canals. I got to do some.
How long ago was this?
This was February of
It had to be recent because all this is past the initial
Mhm.
shutdowns of COVID, right?
Right. So I closed out my office in May of 2020. And I was kind of like a mobile little vagabond, wherever I can put my little stuff and my little people. And then January of 2021 is when I signed on with the former office, and my first as a GP. And so I was introduced to Wave 1 Gold. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I can do this. So I was like, I can do some root canals. And I took some continuing education courses online, and that were like, big series courses, and real, had study groups and different things like that, all dedicated to endo, and learned my rationale behind what I was trying to do with it. Still, I don't do molar endo yet. I'll get there eventually after I take a few hands-on courses. But anyway, I pushed myself more. I stepped outside my comfort zone. And now I feel like, all right, I'm truly fulfilled with what I'm doing, the decision I made. So that was a horrible working experience. So culturally, so it wasn't the right office culture for me and my personality type. And the day I'm giving my letter of resignation, they're giving me a letter of termination as well.
Wow. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
And
So
and then
basically, then you're basically now at this point where you're working as a GP with is it another private practice office or corporation, or what are you doing now?
So I'm in the Heartland family now. So I've been with Heartland since February 1st of this year.
As an associate, right?
Yes. Yeah. As a partner dentist. The office that I'm currently in is in Rosenberg.
For clarification, what exactly is a partner dentist? Is that an associate?
That's just it's associate.
Okay, because the term implies ownership. And because we have some docs that are watching this trying to figure out what's what, and I know some of the proprietary terminology that companies use.
Right, so they don't use associate. Right, okay. So they don't use associate because typically associate has a lead dentist in the office, either owner dentist or a lead. Okay. So at Heartland, they typically are multi-doctor offices, but there's no doctor that is a lead over another doctor. So that makes us partners. And so it isn't that associate and owner doctor, that associate and lead doctor type of relationship.
Can you get partnership and let's just say, can you buy a stake in that office?
Yes, you can purchase stock in the office, and that's how you get your return on hygiene collection and production.
Okay. But let's just say that they sold that office. Would you get a percentage of that office, profit or whatever? Let's just say they sold it for $1 million. Okay, so the partnership just allows you to collect some of what other people are doing.
Yeah. Right. So you're buying a profit sharing.
Yes, profit sharing. Yeah.
Right. Profit sharing off of the whole practice.
Right.
Pretty much.
Okay. So you said a lot. I'll be honest.
I know.
You said
I'm sorry.
A lot, right? No.
You told me go
right?
from.
No.
You told me I started in 1997. High school, graduated.
But it's great because we can kind of see your basically your travels through dentistry, right? As a new grad, as working in with what they call nonprofits, and then also now you're going to Perio. I want to pause on the Perio part, because you made it seem like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you made it seem like somebody said, hey, you should pick a route, and you said, fine, I'm going to pick Perio. Not I love Perio, not I'm going to go into Perio because I really want to do Perio, but I have to make a decision. Right? Like that's how it kind of came across.
Right. I knew I had to make a decision. I knew that I could have went at that time at Loma Linda, I think. Nobel was doing courses and things like that. And I just knew that there was going to be a lot of gaps in there.
So why couldn't you just basically take courses? You know what I mean? Like you could have still been a general dentist and taken implant courses, taken perio courses to see if it's truly what you wanted to do. But you just went into the residency.
Yeah, because
that's a very finite. You know what I mean?
It is, but it isn't at the same time, because within the perio field, we learn so much, right? We learn so much about the anatomy and the surgical aspect. So when I'm done with my residency, would I be comfortable with third molars? Sure. Ones that I wanted to handle. Would I be comfortable with implant placement? Yes. And so I think that it had, and of course, all the surgeries that are under the perio umbrella. And so I thought, I would have some good stuff in my armamentarium. But yes, I didn't like think out the whole thing to see how polarizing it is, just being a specialist and specializing. I just know I wanted a certain level of education before I put an implant into somebody's skull and feel proud about it.
If I can ask, because that's I picked up on something. So you mentioned going back to residency so you can get more comprehensive training, right? So there wouldn't be as many gaps. And I fully understand if you've watched any of my episodes with Walter and Kyle. But then you also applaud the super GPs, right? So now, kind of having been in the game and seeing that, as you said, you can be a pretty comprehensive, very skilled, well-rounded GP without the residency. Do you actually regret going back to residency? Do you wish you had different guidance at that time? How do you reflect back, knowing what you know now and what you've seen now?
Yeah, so I applaud both, right? I think like I have to, because I don't want to sit back and just be disgruntled and kind of be a hater, like, look at that guy. He's
That's okay. We do that. We do that. Listen,
that's a free country. You can hate.
No, hate, right? This is our podcast. Like we want to be honest.
Yes.
I don't want to spend my day like that.
Right.
Like I don't want to.
No, but I mean, he asked a great question, right? He said, "Do you regret going back?" Not, let's not talk about anybody. Do you regret going back?
I regret acquiring that much debt for Perio. If I would have been in a different type of, maybe like a public university or something like that, I don't mind spending 3 years getting in-depth education about something that I'm passionate about. The path and the route that I took. So, in an ideal world, I think I would have did like an AEGD program. I probably would have did that for 2 years. And I still feel like if I would have been in an environment like Detroit Mercy with their AEGD program, who also is hand in hand with Perio, I feel like I would have been good there too. So I was very dependent on guidance because, I'm a first generation grad, like first college grad in my family. My family's there to support me, but it was just trying to find that right guidance, I guess. Then I've had mentors and then I also get set on what I'm going to do, and I want to do it. So I do it.
Okay. And then the next thing too, that I want to ask, which involves a lot of money, is you open the practice without knowing the dynamics or the environment that you were going to open up a practice in, right? The one thing is doing like your due diligence to look at the demographics. Right, to look at them. That doesn't really mean that doesn't mean anything if the people don't know you around it. Right?
It did. I thought.
So do you regret that part? Do you regret opening so early?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think 5 years is good. I think working, whether you're going to work for, a Pacific Dental or a Heartland-based office or a Lovett or Cass, whichever one you decide, or a private doctor, working about 5 years to establish the trends, establish your true demographics where people, there can be a lot of people in an area with money, but are they going to mesh with you? And so there's some parts of the city where, fee for service, patients pay up 100% before they get their treatment and everything like that. But I walk my little brown self in there and they like, who is this little, and we're not, I just feel I may not be able to convert those cases, because I'm in a practice with 4 Caucasian men that are in there ranging from 30s to early 60s. And so just learning about that part, having some time, a good 5 years, I think. And in that 5 years, saving up about $250,000 for living expenses for your first 2 years of practice. I think having hard money savings or savings that's liquid, or in an investment. You own property, you sell it when it's time for you to get things going with your practice. However you get it, have it in tow, because that's another reason why my office wasn't able to propel, is because that was also having to feed my expenses and my living expenses, everything like that.
So if I can summarize that for any listeners, the main point of that is take your time, perfect your craft or improve your craft, because you're
Definitely.
a fledgling graduate, right? Get exposed to different business models, right? As an associate, as an employee dentist, you're getting paid to also learn, whether it's the marketing, patient conversion, billing, pricing, demographics, and all that. So there's no need to absolutely jump from, because I think they've sold the American dream is you got to own a house and have 2.5 kids and a white picket fence. In dentistry, the dream is always, well, if to be a dentist worth your salt, you have to own at least one, maybe 2, maybe more, right?
Yeah. 5.
And so for a lot of us first geners, there is that kind of proclivity to maybe jump in head first without having either, my dad and my mom was a dentist and they know the game, they know all the distributors, they know the contractors. So your advice is take your time, learn the game before you invest hundreds of thousands more.
Yes.
Okay.
And I feel even before you decide to specialize, you should go out. I did my 5 years out when working in, community health. But if you're thinking about specializing, you should too work, to me, I think as much hands-on life exposure before making huge investments, $300,000, $500,000 investments, and seeing it through your own eyes, because people can only tell you from their perspective, but you never know how it's going to be for you.
Okay.
And,
okay.
But yes, that was a great summarization.
Yeah. Another question, right? Is whenever you had your practice, you said you immediately bought a CBCT and a laser.
I did not immediately buy that.
Okay, how long? How long did you? No, how long did you practice before you bought it?
And for anyone listening,
3 years.
Lanap is not a cheap laser. Okay,
no, that's why I'm trying to get this.
When you said Lanap, my jaw dropped just a little bit. I was like, "Ooh, that's a big jump."
Right, the Lanap is not cheap, nor is the CBCT. So that's why I'm asking these questions. So. Right. No one. No. So for me, I'm going to say this. No. So let me put it this way, right? No one. I don't think the purchase itself was a bad idea, right? I don't think having the CBCT is a bad situation. I'm just looking at how can somebody learn from you and when to purchase these things, right? Because you said, I remember you were talking about,
honestly,
we weren't as profitable.
And you're not going to like my advice for it, but if I had to do it all over again,
yeah.
If I had to do it all over again and I knew, well, and
like you ran out of money.
The laser's different. The laser's different. Right. Okay. But let me tell you why I ran out of money. I ran out of money because I built a practice from the ground up.
Right.
Quite a few of the dentists that I met when I moved down here bought or rented an office that was already a dental office.
Okay.
They did some small cosmetic things to it, maybe change some paint, maybe put a wall up here or there. But for the most part, it was already plumbed. Electrical was already there. They already had a sterilization area and basically just updated and rehabbed it. And that changed your investment drastically. Okay. And then if I would have did that, also I would have probably bought a practice, right? So if I could, I would have bought a practice. And guess what? I would have got the cone beam. And as a periodontist, I would have got the laser immediately.
Okay. So I guess
because I had return
my
on investment
yeah
immediately when I got my laser. I already had cases sold even before the laser was delivered.
Okay, so can you tell us? Oh, well, I got two questions. First one would be, you said you had 500K for your build, right? How do you come up with that number?
That was the max
Right.
that Wells Fargo gives. Yeah.
Oh, I see. So it wasn't like, hey, I calculated how much I'm going to need and everything that's going to be included in there.
Ooh, what? TT make a plan? You're right. No, listen. I need to know how much I can use for working capital. That was important. How much was needed to be dedicated to construction? Where things had to be allocated. Then once I figured that out, I'm like, ooh, well, I want glass here, I want flooring here, I want this sage here. I had a whole mood board, you know.
Okay. The reason why I'm asking that is that 500K, I would have thought we could have included the cost for the laser and the CBCT. Then you wouldn't have run out of money. And I'm just trying to get, the whole running out of money aspect and how someone could have, prevent that part.
Absolutely. And that's why I said I would have did it from the beginning. But in order to afford it, that means that I wouldn't have been able to have glass, have this, have that, have texture wall, vinyl wall coverings, all the other little cosmetic things when it came to my practice.
So you wanted a Ferrari out the gate. You didn't want to start with a Toyota Camry. You wanted a Ferrari out the gate.
Right.
No starter home over here, boo. Okay, we're going straight to luxury.
Right, but we do have to talk pragmatically about that, right? Because we saw what the outcome was, right? So when you're giving advice, because there's a couple things in that story arc that I would love to hear what your feelings are now reflecting on them.
Yes.
You said you had consultants.
Yes.
Now, and one of my good buddies that Walter knows just opened up an office down in Texas, had a consulting firm. So I would love to know how you linked up or got pushed towards consultants. And given that you had mentors, because one of the biggest things that I found is that a lot of the stuff that my buddy that opened up his practice, that the consultants were advising him on, me or my business partner, because we had already done it, could have easily just given him the advice for free, right? And so the importance of mentors in whatever, like if you're going into Perio, having a Perio mentor, but if you're going into entrepreneurship, surrounding yourself by mentors that love and care about you enough to give you advice free of charge because they just want to see you do good. So can you tell us about that arc with the consultants and maybe lack of mentors guiding you through that build out and financial process?
Yeah, and I had asked one of my, friends and colleagues, and they already had a practice for many years about the consultant. And they were like, yeah, go for it, and so I went for it. So it's like my personality type. One thing that isn't the best about it is I don't ask a lot of questions. Like I don't challenge. So like that's why I wanted a partner from the beginning, because my friend is like that. She asks question after question and she challenges and she is very, very detail oriented, and so she like goes through everything and all the fine. And I'm like, la la la. Where's it at? I'm ready to have some fun. And, like, let's get to it. When I wish I would have had somebody that was like that, or I had that in my personality. So that was the one thing. And then, at that time, I guess I was just looking for like this consulting guy to like come down and like bless my practice and tell me what to do and do everything like that. Where no, it wasn't like that.
Do they offer any guarantees of mean, obviously they can't guarantee that you'll be successful, but I'm assuming if they're rolling in your financial aid package to include that their fee, I would hope that there's some guarantee, like, hey, if we don't get you to X amount profitability by year one or year two, like, it's
it
free.
Was convoluted. It was convoluted. It was in there.
Yeah.
It was convoluted, and it was lacking, and it was just a really crappy experience. But I shouldn't have signed up for it in the first place. Yeah. I should have went out and got, I should have went out there and put my feet to the ground and learn my market, learned about where I am and what is,
So you spent $45K. How long was that $45K good for? Was it a year worth of consultants?
1 year.
1 year.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so their marketing plan was getting me, because they're like, yeah, we got a big marketing plan. And so it's opening day. I'm like, okay, what's the marketing plan? They're like, oh, we're working on that now. We're getting you signed up with all the insurances.
That's not marketing.
That's not marketing.
That's not marketing.
Yes, and that's why you sign up with insurances, because that's an insurance. I'm like, no. I'm like, okay, so it's June. What's our June plan? I open in March. I was like, what's our June plan? Well, I don't know. Maybe you can make up a care package for the dentist at Dog Days of Summer. Huh?
Dog Days of Summer.
Well,
Summer
usually we would do mailers, but you can't afford mailers. Well, maybe we should have put that in the budget from the beginning. I never got a budget. Like, this is allocated to this. That's really what I thought I was going to get. Like, someone that was going to do that side when it came to proper operational support.
Right.
And so that's where it's lacking for me.
Interesting.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry, because I'm very confused now. What did they say they were going to give you for the $45,000 that you spent?
I said that already. I said, okay.
No. I'm talking about like. Go ahead. I'm just very confused.
So
overseeing the construction process.
Yeah. Okay.
While I'm still in Detroit, gathering my family, making this transition, making sure the lease is signed, marketing, develop systems. So systems can be, hey, having everybody, how do we enter the phones? How does the process go from answering the phone to getting the patient in the chair? How to do an insurance breakdown. Those were the systems.
Okay, so do they do that?
Once a month, one of the consultants would come and sit with my front office and train her one-on-one for everything. Yeah.
Okay, I got a question, just because I've been in this game a little bit, and I see where the traps can often be. So a consultant firm that's overseeing your build out and your equipment ordering and all that.
And that's how I met them. You asked me how I met them, right?
Right.
Yeah, right. That's how I met them.
So did you happen to catch any patterns of who they were bringing to the table? For instance, there's a lot of local contractors that can do a lot of, whether independent distributors of whether it's cone beam or dental chairs, right? Or you can go straight to Henry Schein, straight to Patterson, and you're paying, 25, 30% more, but they are getting, they have a financial, kickback by bringing customers to the big companies. Did you see that they brought you to these maybe, higher, higher price tag companies in the build out process, and that led to kind of using up that budget?
Well, it was the other way around a little bit. And yeah, that part did happen as well. So number one, my contractor introduced me to the consulting firm. And I think that they were kind of in cahoots. It kicked each other back. Boom. And then when I had the consultant, then that's when I started doing all the buying. So I never even, he was like, yeah, we're going to go with Henry Schein and And I'm like, okay, I'm on board, let's go. So it wasn't a lot of, again, challenges. I didn't challenge them. We just went, so we didn't price out supplying with Darby. We didn't check out equipment costs with Benco or even refurbished items too.
Right.
You know,
Well, and you wouldn't know that you had to, because presumably
everything was brand new. Right.
Presumably your consulting firm is your advocate. That's what you would think, right? So
Right.
you're trying to maximize my dollar, compared to what my vision is. But there, we learn the hard way, and I've definitely often we've learned the hard way.
Right.
There's no friends in this game, especially when it comes to business.
Not at all. No advocates. And that's what I paid that $45K for. I was like, it's a no-brainer because they're going to be on the ground. They're going to make sure that I'm safe. They're going to make sure that I have everything that I need. And so when I go in there and I'm like, I want Delta Crane chairs and the ones that massage. Saying, okay, hold on, wait. Have you looked at the DCI chairs? They're just as nice. They come with good warranties. A lot of my doctors use them. They're still stylish, and it'll save you about $4,000 a chair. I'll pout like, oh, I guess let me go see it. 4,000, yes, Tamaara, because we can use that. We can use that 4,000 to get your mailers out because we need to do that now. And that same $4,000 that we're saving on chair room too, we can get you a sign. I didn't have a sign outside, y'all. Mm-hmm. I didn't have a sign out. I never had a sign.
So they just agree with whatever you wanted.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And you wanted some good stuff.
The best.
You could have hired me for $45 because all the time. I'd have been like, nope, not doing that.
And I would have been like, okay, damn, all right. Sheesh, I guess.
But that's a great point, because one of the things that I have found that's been very troubling, especially in the Black community, because a lot of us are first geners coming into this game, is we often lack the know-how, the connections, what to ask, how to bargain, what our resources are when it comes to ordering supplies and all that. And can you talk a little bit about what your feelings are as far as what we need to develop as a community of Black providers so that we can save some of these, up and coming graduates from, hitting the same walls that we all hit?
They're going to have to be as transparent as possible and honest and take the ego out of it, right? So we already have a huge, small percentage of Black dentists. So we already made it this far, right? So we're already the creme de la creme. And I just think over that, like there's this big callus that grows where we need to protect it and hoard it. And they're not gonna know where I got this fresh from because, and it's we need to stop being in competition with one another and start. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying everybody, because I met some very extremely giving Black doctors being a part of the Houston Minority Dental Society, but we had to drop that wall, right? And so, and let everybody know, let's drop our wall, let's be transparent. And there's other organizations that kind of sprouted from there that are doing amazingly well because the ladies are coming together and they're dropping that wall and they're just being honest and they're like venting and having a place where they can call on other sisters that are going to do the same thing as them and just being open and honest. So I think that's where it starts, like having the groups and the message forums for people to be honest and, just gaining that trust, So the 5 dysfunctions of a team, what's that first one? Is trust. And that trust isn't, oh, I trust you with my $5 that you're going to give it back. That trust is based on openness and letting that person, that team member into your life as a person, not as a front office assistant, And so that needs to happen with our colleagues too. Because I have a quick story. I have a quick story though. Okay. So my one friend, and just about the whole transparency thing, there's one friend, there's someone that we know that does amazing composite veneers. I mean, they are stunning. And my friend reached out to them and said, what course did you take? And they responded that they were self-taught. And clearly they could be, definitely. But I found out the course that they took because he's on the video of the man marketing the course. I took a screenshot. Send it to her. What's going on here? Like, come on, let's share. We're already a small percentage. We're not going to be a threat to each other. Let's just share. And even if we are, like, who cares? Let's just all get it. So,
let me ask you this. What you said actually really kind of resonated a lot in here. You said you had mentors. Mm-hmm. Was there any time you actually went back to your mentor and said, hey, I have this 500K and it's really dwindling fast. Can you look at what we're buying and tell me if I need this stuff, or what can I do to cut cost here, right? Use your mentors in a way, right? Or was it you just basically leaning on the consultant people and then that was it? Like, did you have a checks and balance for somebody for the consultant group? You know what I mean? Or is it just my inability to trust people? Because I would have had somebody checking the consultant who's built a practice, who knew all this stuff. You know what I mean? Right. So that I can make sure that they're doing the best that they can for me, because I hired them, right?
Will you be my business partner? I needed that.
I would have said no.
You.
I would have said no when it came to the massage chairs.
That's all I needed.
Okay,
but do you see what I'm saying, though?
Would you have listened? Because at the same time, you have to have the mentors. And one thing that I've learned having associate doctors over the years is you can guide them as much as you want. Not everyone is receptive, because we are type A's. So we see the end goal. We think we know a better way of how to get there. And we're not always receptive to being told, no, slow down, hold up, do it this way. So yeah, the main question was, Walter, did you have mentors that you actually had more intimately involved? And then would you have listened had they said, let's get that Camry, not the Ferrari?
I would have. Yeah, I would have. Like, if you would have, I'm coming out of residency, right? So we're used to defending everything, right? Why'd you do this? Well, I did this before this, and this is what study shows, and blah, 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 blah. So, and then it's backed up with clinical trials and research. And so that I would have trusted that for sure. If they said, hey, Tamaara, let's go. Hey, Dr. Morris, let's go visit another practice that I help. And these are their numbers. And this is what this means. And this is the loss. And this was the last year. And this is where they were before we got here. And this is where they are now. This is a P&L statement. This is what this means. So I had an accountant, and I met him probably, I would say maybe 6 months to a year after I opened the practice. It was too late by that time. I had already spent a whole lot of money, all on the wrong things. And we spent a lot of time trying to build it up, get it back. And it was just getting too hard. So I think just how I started off was really crappy. But I do think if people tell me no all the time, like, Tamaara, you should know that is not a good idea. Now, if it's really in my gut, like and people are sitting in the same seat that I'm sitting in, like they've been in the same, when I asked the ladies in my mastermind about the laser, they're like, yeah, totally get it, but buy a diode or a cheaper laser and use that first, and then to save up for the other one. I can't really do that because they do two completely different things, but when talking to other periodontists that they were about it, how they told me about the return on investment. I talked to 2 lady periodontists that had them in their office. We talked about how to bill it out. We talked about a lot of stuff. And they were like, no, you need to go get that yesterday. Like, yes. Okay. So I did do a lot of, it's also who it's coming from and what was their experience with it themselves.
Can we talk about the closing of your practice? What did that look like? What did you have to do when it came to any, bank loans or anything like that at all, if you don't mind going over that? Because I think people would love to know how you transitioned out of that and now are in this situation that you seem way happier in. But how did you transition? Yeah. That had to be tough. You're dealing with COVID and, closing a practice.
And a closing,
that's intense.
And what it means for it to close, and me wanting to buy my dream house one day. Like, I've been fascinated with houses since, like, obsessive about them since, like, I graduated from dental school.
Right.
And
but
so
how did that closing
how did it
of
all
the
tie
practice
in?
look?
Here, how
Yeah,
it all ties
how
in.
did it look? Like, how did it look? How did you get, everything kind of squared away so that you can move away from that? Because you had the bank loan, right? The
Yes.
500K.
Lots of
You
loans.
had that, right? You had
Yeah,
to basically
lots of
deal
loans.
with your assistants and your front office, your staff. How did you
All
deal
that.
with that? How did you deal with your landlord? How did that all look?
So staff was always taken care of. They were kind of taken care of first. I talked to my accountant about what my choices are. One choice was to see if we could get the loan refinanced. And that would bring down the payments, which would give more, income, that I can use to pay other loans, to pay down loans. Went through that process, but after they looked at the numbers in my practice, they just didn't see that it was going to be feasible. And then also the pandemic hit right when I was in like the tail end of that anyway. So that didn't go through. And then the next one was, if I close, I have to file bankruptcy. And I was like, okay, so I'm thinking like, okay, bankruptcy on the practice, it won't affect me. I'll be able to buy my dream house and all this other stuff. And they're like, no, he said no, because you're the personal guarantor on all those loans. And I go through all my paperwork and I'm like, pure periodontics and Tamaara Morris. Oh man. On my lease. Pure periodontics and Tamaara Morris.
So you were personally tied to it. You're personally tied to your practice. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So
you have to file.
Let's break that down. Like, what could you have done differently then?
In which part?
Or with being tied to that practice on a personal level, right? Because if you're tied to that practice on a personal level, not separated by a trust or an LLC or S corp or something, then wouldn't you be responsible for any?
So the LLC,
issues?
S corp, all that stuff has nothing to do with it. Basically, when you are a new dentist or you're starting your first practice, more than likely you're going to be the guarantor on the loan. Okay. After you have built up your business credit and your, what they call it, the Duns and Bradstreet, you have like an actual business credit number.
Credit score, yeah.
Then you can go out and get individually financed as a business. But up until that time comes, which you're not going to have as, someone just coming out of residency or dental school, then you're going to tie, your name is tied to it. So, and that doesn't matter what type of entity that you choose, if LLC, PLLC, S corp, C corp, whatever it is.
So you chose the bankruptcy route, right? Is that what I'm hearing? And then I guess the process of that, were you able to liquidate the assets to go towards, any of that debt, or, did the bank just take over the practice at that point, I assume, and then, they own it and they do whatever they want, sell it off?
Yes. Well, right now I'm in the heart of it. So I'm in I filed on the 16th of March.
So this is all real fresh.
But we had been talking about, I had already retained my attorney back October 2021. I had retained, or 21. It was a 2020, I think. Yeah, October 2020. I had them retained. Okay, so I already knew what I was going to do, but it's just the timing. It takes a long time. I don't know why it takes so long. It just takes a long time. So finally, I was ready, and it's a timing thing too when you do it. I suppose so. I don't have assets and stocks and all that stuff. I'm a really simple case, and they're like, "You don't have? No, I don't. I don't own a home. I don't own land. I don't own a boat.
You're not a millionaire dentist?
I'm totally not a millionaire dentist. I did have an Audi, and I did have a Mercedes-Benz truck, but the Mercedes-Benz truck had a fender bender, and it was totaled. And I decided to buy a cash car that now she squeaks very loud. It's fine. It's fine. That's how she sounds. And it's fine. We're working through life and things are going to get better. But I just needed a moment. Let me buy a cash car just to take a moment to reset and get what I want to do, get my family in order. I have a fiance, that relationship needs nurturing. I have 3 children and 2 bonus kids that live with us too. My mom lives with us. My family needs me too. So, I just needed to just take some time and just get everything stable.
Yeah.
So
and you're happier now?
Oh yeah, I'm happy as a leaf.
Because that's one of the things I jotted down, because I really wanted to see what your feelings were on how you would define success and happiness holistically as a person, right? Because there's different facets, right? There's family happiness, professional happiness, and so forth. And what they can affect each other. You could be miserable in one, and that energy gets transferred to the other. So what, if you could project yourself out 5-10 years from now, paint us a brief, quick picture of what your happiness place would be like, given the context of what you've been experiencing.
Okay, so which one do you want? Okay, so
we'll just stick to like career. We'll stick to just career. Yeah, because I know you can go back to 2047, and we're not doing that. Let's just stick to career.
So when I was a kid, I did beauty pageants.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So that kind of shaped me. I'm sorry, wait. I'm sorry, drop. Okay, let's see. Well, career-wise, definitely still be with Heartland. I think that.
So you like Heartland?
Yeah.
Because we get so many people talking negative about corporate dentistry.
They haven't walked through my shoes. I have a different outlook on
and that's it.
Your day-to-day professional fulfillment. Okay. So to have layers of staff that are there, the layers of support, people to call on, you being judged not based on like how much butt you kiss, but being based on your numbers, like that's what it comes down to. That is what I just want. That's what I want, positive environment, leadership anyway. But anyway, I'll still be with them. And good news is I got a call on Friday that they found a spot for me at an office here in Cyprus. And I already have a great connection and relationship with the dentist there. And he sold to them about 3.5 years ago. And so he's kind of in limbo and how he's going to transition, if he's going to transition all the way out, how he's going to do it. So hopefully, like, I found my dental home. It's not hopefully, I have, because it's back here in Cyprus. I have patients that have been following me all around the world. And now I feel like I'm home. I live in Cyprus. I'm planning on buying a home in Cyprus in a couple of years. So that's where I'll be professionally, my day to day. But the company also allows a lot of leadership. So I really do want to be in some type of mentorship program and be on some type of leadership committee where I can speak and be on the stage and speak my story where I am. And, the leadership that's been provided and that I can give out, because despite my business acumen, I know how to get a team together. I know how to get some positivity in there. I know how to sell my butt off when it comes to the dental chair. And so it's just like, I feel there's other things. Also, they have like implant consortiums, things like that. And I want to be a part of too when it comes to teaching. So like really just use that to the max and use that income to make more income and do different partnership things with my fiance, future husband. So we want to get deeper into real estate together and have other small businesses, whatever we can, acquire, and have something as a partnership together. And then he works on his career as well.
Okay. Good.
Okay. I say this with all honesty. Given your experience of diving into business and dentistry and what you've just explained to us, can you rate the wisdom in seeking to diversify and jump into a bunch of other different businesses that you may not have any experience in? And I'm not trying to be catty or nothing, but I think this is where we learn by being, and I appreciate your openness and your vulnerability. Yeah. But what I see is a pattern, right? Yeah. And then the first thing you say is,
Yeah.
I want to take that money and I want to go get this. I want to open this business.
Same
And you
thing as
just
that
finished
girl.
saying
I'm
that
just getting myself out of it.
that you had
Yes.
reservations about your business acumen.
I just met my next dang on mentor. Sheesh.
Now, are you
Okay,
gonna listen to him?
but-
That's the next question.
Yes. Yes, and I'm gonna be able to defend the hell out of whatever I'm trying to do.
Right.
Okay. Now y'all know I just said I want to be a rap singer.
Right.
No, I know.
Use my own
We
videos.
know.
Have my own videos.
Well,
So
on a
when it
side
comes
note,
to-
before you answer, I do want to
Mhm.
applaud because I'm not going to ask your age on a public platform. I'm assuming you must be an 80s baby like me because in the first 5 minutes, you referenced Coming to America twice and Dirty Dancing. Okay.
Right.
So
Right.
we already family. Okay.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, Coming to America is the best movie ever. And if you don't like it, please stop listening to our podcast because I will disown anybody that talks bad about Coming to America.
You know, Walter, the society and comedy has progressed so much. We kept talking up coming to America to our kids, and we finally had a family movie night and watched it. And when I tell you, they probably only laughed twice.
Are you kidding me?
And then they looked at us like, because they grew up with the hyper dramatics of That's So
Right.
Raven and
Yes.
Miley Cyrus, that stuff that was like groundbreaking to us in the 80s. That was their norm. And so they just looked at us like that was the biggest hype ever, like that. You know what I'm saying?
See, that's when I would have actually officially taken them off the will. I would have officially disowned them. It really would have. I would be like, oh, okay. Well, here you go.
Right.
watch me cross you off the well real quick. I don't play about Coming to America, man. I don't play about that. But we'll wrap this up. But yeah, he asked a very good question. It's kind of like,
and I have an answer.
Just like with anything, right? We should learn from our mistakes.
For sure.
Unless you don't think it's a mistake.
Do
you see what I'm saying?
It's a failure. I think it's a failure.
Well, then we should learn from our failures so we don't repeat.
You fail what? You fail forward. So before I go into any type of investment with my fiance
or anyone,
number one, it is going to be I want to stick to one type of business, right? And so real estate has always been I have real estate agents in my family. Like I said, I've always obsessed about homes, rehabbing homes. My grandfather was an interior decorator. He used to lay floors and drapes and help refinish homes, painters in my family. So it's always been there. So I'm not out of touch. Do I want to start a restaurant or anything like that? Absolutely not. But I do think our first one will be in the real estate and in home decor and things like that.
And I'm just going to grill you because I'm jumping in as your mentor here. Where are you going to find this time when you're working full time or as much time as possible as a dentist? Mm-hmm. You're doing education with Heartland, leadership positions, implant consortiums.
3 kids.
Okay. All right. 3 kids.
5 in the house.
5 in the house.
5 in the house.
And a relationship to nurture. Where are you going to have time? Because you can't be a part-time real estate agent and make money. You can't be a part-time interior decorator. Like people that are successful in those arenas, that's what they do.
Right. Hold on.
We lost your video?
No.
We can still hear you though. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So where are you going to find time for all these other ventures?
So the good thing about Heartland is it's all about work-life balance. That's number one. So doing grueling 50, 60-hour weeks is not something that I have to do anymore. My hours are set, and if I need days off, there's unlimited PTO. So if I do need to want to take a vacation with my family or spend some one-on-one time with my fiance or husband by that time, then I can do so, So I guess it's about when to step from one and give to one. The other thing is
you're deflecting because I didn't ask about vacation time
at all. Yeah.
I said, how are you going to find time for these other multiple businesses? Because when you're in real estate and someone says, hey, we need to do a showing today at 10, but you're booked at the office, even if you're only working 3 days a week, you're not available to go do that or to meet with contractors or to meet with decorators.
Well, that's why
So
I have a partner. It's not just now. I'm not one. I am two. We're not
that's
two individuals. We're one together. And
okay.
so the good thing about my
So he's going
fiance
to be
is,
full time. He's going to be
so
full
he's
time with this stuff.
right. So he makes
Okay.
he's a barber. He makes his schedule. He has a lot of flexibility, more flexibility than I have. And so that's why I say I'm not doing this alone anymore. It's not just me anymore. And so I want
So
to
you
use
sound
that.
like you sound like a silent partner, really, like somebody that's not
Yeah.
really immersed in it because you have
Right.
other things you're doing.
Yeah,
So it's really not.
he's gonna be boots on the ground. He's my muscle. So he's
Okay.
gonna go and make
Okay.
sure the
So
contractors
yeah.
are there, that they're doing what they're supposed to do. Like, he's gonna be a very integral part of, things that we're doing outside of dentistry and outside of the barber chair.
And
So it's a big part.
just to bring this full circle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up here.
You're happiest now that you've scaled back your involvement in business.
Right.
You get where I'm going with this, right?
Yes.
You're happier now with less business, but you're professing to want multiple businesses going forward.
Yeah.
You see, and this is where a mentor comes in.
So maybe
because
so maybe I over exaggerated. I don't need, like I said, I don't need an ice cream truck, a car wash, a laundromat. Like, I don't need that many businesses. If I
was
can
it just
rehab.
the business? Was it? Let me try to help you. Was it the business of dentistry that you're happy you're not doing anymore?
Yes.
So other businesses are okay with you, just the
Totally
business of
fine, yeah.
dentistry.
Right. They're all going to have their hiccups, but being like I said, what was one of the first things I said? I felt like I was on an island, right? All by myself. I have a partner, now. Also, I have a great relationship with my accountant still, who is a real estate investor as well. I'm thinking about another consulting firm.
To do what?
To help me on kind of like that mentorship guiding. Also with
no more consulting firms.
Please.
I'm gonna say it. No more consulting firms. We're done. We're done.
It's 3 months.
I was trying to help you out until you said consulting firm again. We're not doing that. We're not doing consulting. Yeah. We're not doing consulting firm.
So but I'm not in it on I'm not like I said, I'm not on the island anymore. And also I'm gonna watch what I do take on. Right. So make sure like I'm not taking on too much, and just start with one investment property and then see with that little investment property. And I don't want to do an investment property that's going to be over $100,000. So just start small and slowly grow, because I listen to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and now I don't even have a practice. So I still have to build assets. Right. And I have to use the money that I'm working for to build those assets.
You though? Is that the old? Because as a community, I would argue that we have adopted this asset-driven, finances-driven, wealth-driven mentality, and we do it at the sacrifice of time with our families, friendships, a greater introspection of what it means to be alive.
Yeah.
And because I hear you say business, and I don't know what the motivation, because you had a business and you weren't happy. You get what I'm saying? Regardless of what the business is, the people that are business driven, because for instance, I have a lot of colleagues and friends of mine that are dentists that own multiple practices. They don't care about the dentistry as much. They love the business. They love whether it's the social rewards that come with it. They love the managerial part of it. They love building and growing, but they could care less about what happens or what all their associates do as far as dentistry, because they're disconnected from that, right? You have expressed a true passion in the actual dentistry.
Mm-hmm.
But when you had a business, you didn't like it.
No. Well, okay. So I need to be a little bit more clear.
Yeah.
When it comes to numbers and understanding my numbers, understanding my team's numbers, understanding our goals, that's all business. Okay. So making sure that we're hitting certain points to make sure that we're profitable by certain percentages isn't just so I'll bonus or anything like that. It's just something that truly drives. Understanding the profit and loss statement I'm obsessive about it. So there's a certain date of the month where the profit and loss statement comes out for the practice that I'm at now, and I want to see it right away.
Well, okay. Can I?
So that part is it.
I'm confused now. Actually, what you just said, I'm very confused,
right.
because when you had your practice, it didn't seem like that was very important in the way you acted, right? Because you said, I wanted glass, I wanted, Lamborghini chairs and all, because those numbers would have been the first thing I would have looked at and been like, I can't afford these at this time, right? So based on
knowledge
numbers,
happens over time.
Profit and loss, yeah.
Profit and loss
happens over
right?
time.
No, I mean,
knowledge
I get
happens
that.
over time. Like, so
right.
I didn't have a business background, never even took a business course, right? And so going in and looking at the dentist that, looking at Dr. Colbert never, in my eyes, I didn't see that side of it. I just saw one side, right?
Well, you didn't see it, right? But it doesn't mean he wasn't doing it.
No, he was doing it. He had to be. It was in his office, right? It wasn't any of my business. I was just a little dental assistant. So there's another side of things that I didn't see, right? I think it's the responsibility that's tied to some parts of it that is more daunting, right? So having to pay my staff before I pay myself, making sure that the light bill is paid and making sure that all of our vendors are paid and different things like that. There's a lot of stress that comes along with that as well. Having a place for leadership, and doesn't have to be exact ownership, direct ownership, but having a place of leadership, making sure that I'm in a practice that's doctor led is very important to me. And that's a part of being a business owner as well. Okay.
But that's also a part of being a W-2 employee, though. I mean, anytime you're a licensed professional, everything happens under the auspice of your license. So that leadership has to be inherent to some, extent or another.
Some people have it, some people don't.
They don't, but that's a far cry from being a business mogul, right? Being a team leader, and the only reason I say it's because from the things that you've expressed that have brought you joy or happier, a happier disposition are kind of opposite of what you've explained for your future, right? Because there's patterns of, well, I did this, or for instance, like your friend said, I probably shouldn't mix business and friendship,
right?
But here you're talking about how you're going to be mixing business and relationship, right?
Well, that's a different, you have, that goes beyond like family owned, like if it's your partner and you guys have, a same goal and you guys are goal oriented, things like that, having something that you build together, that's also like team building in itself, like within the relationship, right? So if he goes and does his job and comes home, I don't have that type of mate where he's just fine with us going to our job, coming home, watching a couple of movies, falling asleep every day. No, he wants us to be up. He wants us to be doing something. He wants us to be interactive in the community, getting home with our families. Like it's all, and money needs to be making money. So like he is very driven when it comes to that. And basically I'm getting on board. Okay. Cause I was getting lost in okay, I'll go do my little dental job and I come home and I'll make sure I can get this amount so I can bring this amount home and da 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 da. And so, it's a two-way street. But every practice model is different. So my previous practice model, I never saw the P&Ls for the office. The offices were not transparent about the amount of expenses and what was going out and different things like that. And so I didn't have any type of impact on the business itself, but to be a producer. And the owner told me, I'm like Burger King. Your job is to make burgers. Make the burgers. Your job is not to think, right? And it's to do. And so finding the right corporation that allows me to have a certain level of leadership within my practice is paramount. But how I approach my job day to day is not the same as other dentists approach their job within the company. I'm a little different.
No, I guess I'm okay. There's two things. One, do you think that everybody should own or have a business? And
no,
the reason why I asked that question is because not everybody is built to be a business owner, right? Some people just don't like that aspect of firing people. Some people don't like the aspect of having to look at their numbers. That doesn't make them happy. Like, for example, me, I'll take me for example, right? I don't like real estate because I built a house. So I know what goes into it. And none of that interior decorating, all that stuff excites me at all. Like, you'll never catch me flipping a house. I would never in my life. I don't even like watching HGTV because I cannot stand doing any of that. But do you see what I'm saying? So you have the passion for that. I know myself enough to know that I would never do that because I'm honest with myself, right? I don't know if a lot of people in dentistry, because of what we've been sold, the have to have your practice. I don't think a lot of dental students, I don't think a lot of dentists are honest about maybe being a practice owner is not for me. Being a business owner is not for me. And I'm asking that question because have you sat down and said, is this for me? Like, being a business owner, is that for me, or is that for my husband or fiance or whatever? Do you see what I'm saying? And that's my question, really.
No, it's for me. You know, it's like there's a certain level of control that I need and had to have, and I still I'm incorporated. You know, and I still have a business where we travel around to different dental offices, and I have an associate dentist, and he goes and he does the Lynette procedures in a number of offices, and I'll always have multiple things going because I just came from that type of family, and so did my future husband. So it's just in us, and that's the thing. Like, do you have to? Are you must? No, like there's chosen ones, and are you that chosen one? And if it's like you try to fight in I call him my father mentor, Dr. Ronald Evans. He's worked as a practice owner where I worked for him he only gave me about a month. So I threw away an impression. He sent me to Dr. Colbert, who was his mentor. And so it's just in him. It's just in him. He's tried the other route. It's just in him. He has to have his own practice and then he's chosen. Right. And so that's how I feel when it comes to that. But I think if Pure Perio was backed by private equity, or I had a lot of funding to fund what I was doing, and I had a great amount of liquid assets that I can kick into and a huge line of credit so I can make sure that I can cover the overhead, that's it. I think it was the stress of the financial burden of having to be responsible to pay employees and pay myself and pay our bills and keep the lights on and keep the doors open.
That's business.
But that's one aspect of business.
Unless you win the lottery or unless you come from a lot of money, that's going to be business of any type that you get into.
Then we need to win the lottery or come from some money. And that's where the assets come in. And that's where those assets come in because if Baby Shyla wants to open a dental practice one day and there's a home in her name that we leave to her, and she's like, I want to liquidate the home so I can have working capital while I open up my own practice, I'm gonna say, go for it, honey. That's what it's for. And I didn't have that. So that's what I'm trying to provide. If I would have had that or something, somebody gave it to me, like.
But that's not what you've. That's not what you've expressed, though. That's not what you've expressed, though, right? And the only reason I say this because my ultimate, anytime I converse with anyone, if I feel that like I have a connection to them, is whether it comes off as positive or negative, right? You want to give your honest advice, right? And then they could just be like, all right, Leroy's stupid. I don't need to listen to him, right? But I see so much, especially in our community, this hustle mentality. Yeah. Everybody's got 3 or 4 gigs. I got this business going and that business going. Gigs, yeah. And it's a perpetual thing because they become, and not to say this in a disrespectful way, they become, barely mediocre jacks of all trades, right? And never really a master of none or masterfully successful at any, right?
Well, that means that their asset probably isn't making money for them because if you have to work in your asset, it's a job, right? So
that's technically true.
But that's not an answer really to the question,
But I have to be careful when it comes to my traveling Perio business because if I'm working too hard in it and if I'm working too hard, then it's becoming my job. It's no longer an asset, which means I need to make some hard decisions.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a real quick question, and then we're going off of a tangent here. But let me ask you a quick. Let me ask you a quick question, ready? And we'll climb. You said your dream is to own your own home. If you think about it, your home is actually a liability, not an asset.
That's
because
correct.
it's not making you money.
But what are your assets supposed to do?
No, but that's what I'm asking you. You said you want to, so you basically want, your dream is to have a liability. Do you see what I'm getting?
In
For the
addition
first
to
30 years, anyway.
Right. No,
For
do you
the
see
first
what
30
I'm,
years, it's a liability.
do you see why I'm saying that though? Because everybody's dream, yeah, your dream is to have a home, which is great.
Mhm.
But I think a lot of people do this thing where they say, I want a home, but they don't consider the other avenues of it. So your asset part is actually incredible. I think you should
Right.
have other companies and jobs and stuff that are making you money. But what I'm saying is, you said your dream was to have a home, which is a liability. So your dream is to have liabilities.
Why are you
Does that
saying
make sense?
plural? It's a part of my dream, right?
Well, and
It's
also,
it's okay.
yeah.
Like if I'm dreaming when it comes to having my dream home, I think that is okay as long as I can afford it. Okay, as long as I'm keeping my debt to a minimum, as long as I have multiple revenues of income, as long as we're building some familial wealth, and so my children won't have to go through what I went through. If they do decide to go a professional path like this, then so be it. So
Can I ask a question?
that's just, yes.
Because we're all talking like dentists, right? We are in a high income bracket, so
Yes.
we're very cavalier about some of the stuff that we talk about. You say you want to have a home that you can afford because you're making a good income. As a
No.
dentist or a
Mhm.
periodontist, you can do just that and make a great income and have a great home.
But then
Does
it's a
that make
liability,
sense?
like Walter's talking about, right? Like Dr. Ak is talking about. So he's saying that's a liability out the gate, right?
No.
So
But that's not what I'm asking. You regardless of whether it's a liability or asset, okay?
Mhm.
You can have that with just
Mhm.
sticking to what you're good at, which is being a doctor, dentist, super
A
periodontist.
great doctor. Yeah.
You can have all that,
Mhm.
but you're trying to diversify before mastering the thing that historically you say you've put the most effort, time, money, emotion into being.
Mhm.
You get what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
that's where someone like me hears that, and I'm just like, you've got all these other plans with this as one of like your biggest goals, what these plans are, but you could really just achieve that goal. Which is do what you're good at.
Of
So
course. Of
so
course.
so let me try to understand. Are you saying that like she should not need to go and do all these other things when her dream could be just doing the one thing, which is dentistry?
In a way.
Okay.
Because I'm trying to find out what, if like I said, in our community, we have this hustle mentality. But for most people, and not saying this is going to project this on you, for most people, this hustle mentality never really pans out because they don't know how to focus their efforts, their time, their dedication, their energies on the thing that has been proven to give them the most reward. Like you can make a great income being a periodontist,
Mhm.
right? Because for instance, if you're flipping houses and you guys buy a barbershop with your future husband, and now
Mhm.
you're teaching and you're doing this, you got 5 kids. You
Right.
think you're
So
going
of
to
course,
run multiple businesses and have any time of value with your kids?
well, that's where balance comes in too, right? And that's when you have to prioritize certain things. So if I know that clinically I'm in the clinic 32 hours a week, and my kids, and I want to be there for my children, and my assets aren't making any money for me, so I'm ending up having to go into my assets and do things physically. Now that's a job, then it's changing the flow. Okay. And so will I be able to go to the leadership conference and speak and do all this and travel around the country? Maybe it's not the time for that. Maybe that's in 20 years, but I gotta put it out there into the universe so it will come back to me.
Okay.
And so that's how I am. I'm a very see it, write it, and it happens. And so like whatever I say and write down happens for me. And
So,
sometimes I'm like, dang, I should have been more descriptive because
should have had more details.
This is what I asked for here. Okay.
So I think our confusion is we're assuming that you're trying to do all this within this year. But what you're saying is this is like a long-term projected 30 years out. Once you do one thing and then, okay. So the confusion is basically just we assume you're doing everything all at once. When in actuality, you're saying, I'm going to go ahead and do this and then move on to this and then move on to this. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So basically, we're not taking up 24 hours in a 24-hour day. Like, no sleep. We're just doing
My family will not allow it. And the only way that my assets won't be my job or, is if we diversify, I work as a team, know how to prioritize and know when to make certain moves in my career. And
let me ask you this, and we'll wrap it up here. What did you learn, or what can you give to other people who may be going through what you went through, or are thinking about, hey, do I really want to specialize? Do I really want to do this, and this? You see what I mean? Because to me, to be honest with you, one, I want to thank you for coming on and being so honest.
Very honest.
I mean, incredibly honest. Like, I mean, no, when I say that, you were right when you said a lot of us in the community are not dishonest. I wish we could say, hey, I messed up, so learn from my mistake, or I went through this trial and tribulation, so learn from my mistake. But we don't do that. We try to paint roses like everybody, like we all live in Instagram, right? But that's not the case. You were very honest, and for all, when I say thank you, I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for being so transparent. You know what I mean? So the question I have for you is, what did you learn from it, and what can you impart onto people who are listening, who are dental students, pre-dental students, who are residents, trying to get into a residency? What can you teach them so that they know what to do better?
Right. I think that they should definitely, if you think about it and you want to do something, first thing you want to do is write it down. Write it down. And the next thing is have a plan of action. Okay. And find that person that's doing what you're already doing and ask them as many questions as possible. And don't be embarrassed. When it comes to specializing, if you want to be an oral surgeon or you want to be an orthodontist or periodontist, dang on it, do it. Do it. If that's where your passion and your heart is, and that's what you want to do, by all means, I want you to do it. When it comes, but look at it as a career and not just, oh, I'm so passionate about ortho. Find out if you know that you live in a town and there's 10 million orthodontists and you have to live in that town. You have to. There's really nowhere else your family will accept moving. Then you have to make some decisions about how you're going to move forward. Okay. And so don't just think about dentistry and dental. That was me. Dental. Like dental. It wasn't the whole big picture. Okay. And I got super focused on just one aspect of my life. And so write it down, definitely do it. Learn from others' mistakes, fail forward, take risk. Go ahead, and if you want to open up a practice and that's where your heart truly is, work for a practice for 2, 3, 4, I say 5 years. Save up that money. $250,000 should be your golden number. Cash, okay, or in a asset you can liquidate, and do it. Just make sure that you have financial backing to get you through those hard times, because that's what changed my enjoyment. Like, I didn't have that financial backing behind me. So do it. I think working with new grads for the past year and some change, y'all, please go do an AEGD somewhere. Please.
Especially now.
Yeah.
Especially post-COVID.
Go do an AEGD. GPRs are cool, but to me, GPRs can be maybe too clinical or something. I don't know what it is about GPR, because you're kind of traveling around. Do an AEGD where you're doing big cases, complex cases, but you need to try to see throughout your time there. And if you can afford it and have the patience for it, do it for 2 years so you can come out rocking and rolling and confident, because that's how you're going to sell your cases. And that's how you're going to do the stuff and be truly fulfilled with what you made this huge investment for. Please do it, please. And if you want to specialize, same thing, do an AGD for 1 year. That way you can focus on all aspects of dentistry and see if you're just doing it because that's what you were told you should do, or if you really hate every other aspect of dentistry. That's the only one that gives you some pep.
Well, you know, I appreciate you sharing everything today. I think just like when you're doing case defense, being open and vulnerable and telling your rationale for what you're doing and why you're doing, if it holds up to the scrutiny, then it's meant for you, right? If you leave hard conversations and you're like, you know what, I'm still laser focused, no one's deterred me, then you know that's for you. And we don't do that enough. We don't open ourselves up enough. And I got a lot of love and appreciation and respect for you for sharing your story and for everything that you're doing. And I look forward to, you know, connecting and staying.
See what happens in a year.
Yeah. I want to watch your story for sure.
So Doc, are you a part of Heartland yet?
No. They tried to buy our office.
Can you put my name on it and say that I told, so we can, so
you can get that $10,000.
And you know what I'm doing with it? I'm gonna pay off some loans, and then I'm gonna put it on investment property.
There it is. There it is. I love it.
But come on to the side. Come on, Dad.
We'll talk.
You know, it's amazing to me. I mean, this is how it should be. I you know, we joke a lot, but this is how it should be. We should all be able to have these conversations. Honestly, you know, I feel like people don't have this honest conversation. It's okay not to know everything. It's okay not to be right all the time. You know, I'm learning that, by the way. I feel like I'm always right. My wife tells me I'm wrong every time, but that's not it's okay, you know. but it's okay to have these discussions, because I think that's what is going to basically make us better as a community. Everybody in dentistry, you know, dentists, you know, I'm very critical of dentists. I'm very critical of dentistry because I think we've gotten away from what made us so great, which was the ability to collaborate, which was the ability to understand what we had to go through, which was the ability to focus on who the true enemy was, insurance, not anything else. You know? But we've gotten away from that. We've gotten into a lot of the BS that goes on Instagram and all this other stuff, right? But this, I think, hopefully begins a conversation, an honest conversation. You know, because you've gone through a lot, and one thing that I did not hear was quit. I didn't hear quit in anything that we talked about. So for that, I really appreciate you. I think it's incredible. Come back. Tell us more. Come back in a year and let us know how it is going and your first investment property.
Follow up.
Tell us.
Oh.
You know, tell us so we can, you know, continue this and we will continue to talk. But thank you so much. Really appreciate you. Let's get off and go have fun. Go hang out with
guys.
family.
Thanks so much.
All right, guys.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.